Privyet! Hello, how are you? I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another episode. My name is Omar. I just burped into the mic. This is take. What the hell is wrong with me? I'm dying on the inside. This is take 4. Because the first two I didn't like. And the third one, I slipped up and I said a word I'm not repeating. It's not that bad, but you know what? I don't know the edit and I can't be bothered to. So I'm starting over. Okay, let's jump into this. So, first things first is the Patrick Laine deal. Patrick Laine has been traded to the Montreal Canadiens. He is a Le Canadien de Montreal. Bonjour to my French audience. If I have any, do I? If I don't, hi. If I do, bonjour. Comment ça va? Les bouts. What the fuck am I saying, man? So, the Montreal Canadiens acquire Patrick Laine, and they do acquire a pick, a 2026. It's a 2026 second. Yeah. How am I forgetting this? Yeah, 2026 second. They acquired 2026 second. Patrick Laine, who's at full money, no retention. That's his full contract, which is a near $8 million, by the way. That's expensive, but a team that can do that is Montreal. But whatever. Back to the full trade details. Laine, a second round pick in 2026 for Jordan Harris. Let's talk about Montreal. I'm going to give this a grading. I'm going to give this an F to a A plus. I give this an A for the Montreal Canadiens because you know what? They don't give up much, and they get something. It's a boomer bust, but it's a good boomer bust. And the only team that could acquire a player like that, at least at face value for this, is the Montreal Canadiens. They get a player who's shown some nasty flashes. If you want to see how to shoot a puck, or if you're trying to get into hockey, watch Patrick Laine's highlight reel, especially in his time in Columbus. Yeah, watch Columbus. Great idea, Omar. Dumbass. No, watch his time at Winnipeg. Because he can shoot a puck. Second overall pick in 2026 was behind Austin Matthews and ahead of Pierre-Luc Dubois, who he was traded for in 2021 to Columbus. Because Dubois wanted out, and then I don't even know why they traded Laine. I don't even remember why they traded Laine. I'm not even going to bother. But they get rid of it's a 1-for-1 deal. Laine, who has shown some great flashes and looked pretty damn good in Winnipeg. Columbus gets himself a flashy player. It doesn't turn out well for, I would say, both parties, because Laine earlier this week actually was reported to say he wants out. The reason why he wants out is because Columbus is a fucking train wreck. He is that entire tenure of his time in Columbus was such a shit show. Not because of him, but because of Columbus in general. I mean, poor Laine had to take a mental health leave because Columbus fucking sucks, man. I know I know it's in Ohio, but you know what? It's a good fan base, but just that it was run so poorly that the previous GM Jarmo Kekalainen I don't know what the fuck was he thinking half the time, man. I don't know what the hell he was snoring. That guy made one trade. That guy had one kind of flash in the pan idea in 2021 with the Laine deal and trading Nick Foligno and get a first out of Toronto. Fuck me, by the way. That deal sucked. But because of that, I guess it kind of extended his tenure. I mean, I know that Columbus. I mean, if you just looked at Columbus, man, they just didn't even look good. Anyways, I'm done talking about that. He goes to Montreal, and he's a very flashy player. He's a very awesome, fun player to watch. I did see since he got traded and people are excited for him because he's a second overall pick. He's quite a name that people like to talk about because he was so good in Winnipeg at times that his highlight reels. He has a really good highlight reel, but watching him day to day might make you want to blow your brains out sometimes. At least in Winnipeg. But for Montreal's case, it doesn't matter because you know what? It's a win-win. You either get yourself a player that it's going to help you now and score a lot of goals and make your team really interesting to watch, means more ticket sales and blah, blah, blah. Or you might make the playoffs, for goodness sakes. That Atlantic Division is such a shit show because every team in that division has somehow gotten worse, but at the same time better. It makes no sense. And then you also have the Stanley Cup champions in there too that is just chilling there. So it makes no sense. Every team is fighting for themselves, especially the bottom 3 teams. 4, I guess, of Ottawa, Buffalo, Montreal, and Detroit. They all are having themselves like a pretty much like a fucking nuclear warfare down there. They're going mad. They're doing like mutually assured destruction. They're just trying to kill each other left and right. Just the maybe that one of them can make the playoffs. Because you have the Habs in 2021, who last made the playoffs, made the Stanley Cup Finals, by the way. You have the Senators in 2017, when they made the conference finals, by the way. Detroit in 2016, after that 26, 25-year playoff streak that had a couple of cups in them. And then you have poor Buffalo, who hasn't made the Stanley Cup since 2011. Or excuse me, the Stanley Cup playoffs of 2011. Yikes. How torturous. Back to Laine, though. I'm really going off topic. But Laine is a good, flashy player, or who has shown some good flashes that can be good. It just hasn't worked out, man. But you know what? There's a reason why he was paid $8 million, because there is something there. And Montreal, especially Marty St. Louis, could bring that out. But I do find it interesting now with a player like Patrick Laine, who does play a very flashy, very puck-hungry player like Cole Caulfield. That's the style they play. They want the puck. They can stick handle. They can deke, and they can shoot it. I wonder how does that translate together? Because you know what? It looks fun, but how does that translate? They both want the puck really badly. And only one of them can get the puck. Only one of them can play with Nick Suzuki. Montreal does need some good goal scoring, and they do need to stay healthy, which is what they get in Laine in terms of goal scoring, but in terms of healthiness, or let's say availability, is not really there. That could change this year, especially since the reason why he was missing was because of mental leave. It wasn't because of injury, at least I don't think. I know he did went to the player safety program, which is run by the NHL player safety, or the PA, the player assistant program. I do know that did happen, which did suck, so I'm happy for him. I do wish him best in a tough market like Montreal, because not only, one, it's a heavy hockey market that loves when you do well, but at the same time, it's a hard market to play in. And you know what? It's also hard, and they speak French. So you know what? You got to deal with two languages. And for a guy that's born in Finland, I'm assuming English is not his first language, you better fucking walk in and say bonjour, because they might look at you weird. I wonder how do you make Laine's name French? Patricia Laine? Is that even a French name? Patricia Laine? Laine? Le... the fuck am I saying? But now he's a Hab. I can make that joke now. But there's a guy that could be. There's something that Montreal may have found, and they didn't give up much. They get a pick out of it. So you either get yourself a cap dump of a guy that's like, you know what, this didn't work out here, but we got a pick out of it, and we could flip him at the deadline for something. Or you get yourself a legit fun player to watch that can A, fill in seats, and B, make your team good. So that's a good deal. I give it an A for the Habs because they don't give up much, and they get themselves a player that could really become something. And if it don't, they don't need to worry about it, because that cap hit, while it is a lot, it's not really as demanding for some teams to really take a burden about, since Montreal is in their rebuild mode. I guess they're now in more of a retooling phase now since they got some guys ready to, take the next step for them. And then for Columbus, I also gives them A, because you know what? They get rid of a player that does not want to be there, and they made it quick, nice and quick, wasn't long and drawn out, wasn't like the Dubois situation where if you want a good laugh, look at Pierre-Luc Dubois' shift. There's a shift of him it's in 2021, the year he was traded to Winnipeg. There's a clip of him stepping out there on the ice, gliding past like three guys that had the puck, and then went off. And then was traded like that week or something. I'm not a big Dubois guy because he's such a whiner, and then he likes to think he could take the moral high ground, but he doesn't. Who Montreal was interested in, because I mean, are you fucking kidding me? Why wouldn't they be interested in? His name Pierre-Luc Dubois. Was Quebec born yesterday? No, dumbass. They want the French Canadian guy, but they get Laine, who I think is the better player. They get a player who's really skillful, and if St. Louis can work with that, and the coaching staff can work with that, they could get a player that's really good, or just a guy they can just say, see you later, man. Thank you for your time. Columbus gets themselves Jordan Harris, and he's an NHL-ready defenseman that played a lot of games for the Habs this year, and I think a little bit last year too. He played a lot of games for them, and he was pretty good for the Habs. And you know what? Unfortunately, he's just the one guy that just had to go. He was just the odd one out, because you know what? They had players. They got some good. That back end is pretty young and is pretty good. Listen, you got Laine Hutson. He's a lot of people talking about. He'll definitely be that power play guy for them. He's also really fun to watch offensively. I love his edge work. There's him, Reichenbacher, who's who definitely within, I would say, maybe this season, but probably definitely next year is going to be there in the NHL team. He's very good. They did waste, I think it was the 6th pick on him. I think it was the 6th, maybe 6th, 8th pick. I think top 10 pick of the Bedard draft. So not last year's, but the year prior. So I guess this previous season, the year prior. The Bedard draft. Look at the Bedard draft. If you don't know which one it is, that's the one where Carey Price forgot his name. He's that guy. I think he's a good defenseman, just picked at the wrong time. Because Montreal needed goal scoring. And then they picked Deminoff, and then now they got Laine. So hey man, now they look fun. They got Caulfield, Deminoff, and Laine. That's a pretty heavy sniping core. Now for the forward core, they should stay healthy and focus on getting playmakers because they have enough of these bottom 6 guys, man. Jesus. Like my goodness, like I get it. Like the bottom 6 guys are, I mess with them. Listen, if you know me, if you know my taste in hockey, Connor Dewar is the greatest Toronto Maple Leaf to ever exist, other than William Nylander, Matt Sundin, and Austin Matthews. So, you know what? Shout out the bottom 6 guys. But I keep saying but. Jordan Harris is the odd man out of that, and while I do think it would hurt the Habs. I don't think it hurt them that long. It won't hurt them in the long run, and I definitely don't think it'll hurt them that much in the short run. They just lose a guy that's young that can take up NHL minutes, and they get Laine, man. Like Patrick Laine is no joke. That's a 2nd overall pick guy, and he's not. And you could argue he's a bust, but you know what? I just blame Columbus for just treating him like shit. That's what I blame it on, because Columbus was shit. So back to Harris, a young NHL caliber defenseman that could turn into something pretty awesome. So I think it's a win-win for both teams. And you know what? I just really don't think you could ask for a better trade for both teams. Maybe Columbus could have got something more out of it. They did give up their 2nd in 2026, and it's kind of weird because they're not supposed to be good for a bit. So giving up a pick at that time is interesting. But you know what? They'll probably move some guys to the deadline, and I think a 2nd round pick. I mean, you can acquire a 2nd round pick. There's always teams looking to take on cap dumps. Speaking of cap dumps, we got to go back to Edmonton because for some fucking reason, they don't shut the hell up. Stan Bowman, that evil, twisted son of a bitch that let the whole Kyle Beach thing happen. If you don't know, Kyle Beach was harassed by his video coach in many ways back in 2010, and the Blackhawks, and he was the GM at the time. Went, that seems like a you problem. We got to win a cup, and they did win a cup. At the same time, they did let that happen. It's just a prime example of hockey culture being disgusting. Anyways, the Oilers made 2 trades, and spoiler, they did not. Last time we talked about the offer sheet between Philip Broberg and Dylan Holloway. Fun fact, they did not sign any of them. They did not match any of their contracts. They just let them go. They said, bye-bye, guys. Nice knowing for you. Thank you for that cup run. Wish you all the best. If you listened and paid attention to last episode, I did mention that I don't think they'll take Broberg, because I do think his cap hit is too high. I do think they'll take Holloway. So I am very surprised. And I have noticed a lot of people are surprised, which I understand, because Holloway, I just think it's a very fair contract to him. I think it's a very fair contract. It's not a 1-year deal. It's a 2-year deal. 2 years, around 2.25. I just think they could have matched that. But they didn't. And because of that, if you, an offer sheet, as I poorly described in last episode, you have to give up compensation. And that compensation is for the Broberg, since it goes by money, since around $4.58 million. That is a 2nd round pick worthy, or that's what the NHL deems it as. So they give up a 2nd round pick. And because of the money for Holloway, which is 2.25, I believe, it's 2 point something, that is worth a 3rd round pick. So that means Edmonton gets themselves a 3rd round pick and a 2nd round pick for this year's draft. And they made 2 trades. So they quickly traded Vasily Podkolzin, who played for the Vancouver Canucks. He was traded for a 4th round pick for this year. And Vasily Podkolzin, if you don't know, was a pretty highly touted prospect for the Rangers to be, kind of part of the rebuild a couple years ago. And he had a big falling out with them. He went to Russia. He played there for a little bit until Vancouver traded for him. Played a couple games there. Didn't play much. Didn't look bad. Just wasn't really given the best opportunity there. Was pretty decent for their AHL team as well. And he was traded. So he's just a depth goal scoring defenseman. He's a depth goal scoring forward that had some potential that maybe Edmonton can tap out since they're trying to bring out money. Edmonton. Holy fuck! What is wrong with me? Vancouver. They get themselves a pick and free up a roster spot. So you know what? Do you want a rating? Sure. BB. There you go. Both teams got to be. But the other trade I'm very, very, very fascinated of. The Edmonton Oilers, they trade away their 2025 third round pick, not the one they acquired from the offer sheet, their own, because they did have their own. They traded that, and Cody Ceci, who made around 4 point something, to San Jose for Ty Emberson. You know, Ember, like the move in Pokemon. Torchic, use Ember. I'm so fucking sorry. Sorry, I had to let that sit in and rethink what the fuck was I saying. But yeah, that's the trade. Edmonton did really well because they get rid of Cody Ceci, who made some, good money. Cody Ceci made hold on, where's Puckpedia? I'm sorry if you hear my keyboard. I apologize for my keyboard. Edmonton. Oh, I guess he's on San Jose now. Where's San Jose? I gotta go all the way to the fucking bottom. San Jose. Cody Ceci makes $2.3 million. I actually thought that was a lot. I thought he made a lot more than that. But you know what? That's still money that Edmonton can use to free up. And which is why I thought after seeing that trade, they're gonna keep Holloway because there you go. That's one Dylan Holloway right there. No, they said no. No. But I'll quickly explain later why I think they did that. But they traded that for Ty Emberson. If you don't know who Ty Emberson is, I don't blame you. But sorry, Ty Emberson, shout out to his family. I know you're not listening to this, but you know what? Maybe this is my break. You never fucking know. You never know. Hopefully I don't say anything stupid this time. Dumbass. I'm such a fucknuts. Back to the trade. Ty Emberson was a third-round pick in 2018 by the Sharks and mostly spent his time around the AHL. But he played 30 games for the Sharks this year, and judging by the advanced analytics, or judging by the numbers that you can that people do talk about, I do like analytics a lot. By the way, I'm a big analytic guy. I don't think you should build a team around analytics, but I don't think that I think it's a good way to assess what a player is, because you know what, goals and assists is very that can only show you so much. Back to Ty Emberson. He played 30 games for them. I know the Sharks were the worst team in the league, but hey, that's 30 NHL games. That can go a long way. And you know what? Edmonton basically traded Ceci for Ty Emberson. So they get rid of, yes, a guy who was, I would say, a decent part of the defensive core in the Stanley Cup Finals run that they had this past year. But they get rid of, they do a cap dump and they get themselves a somewhat positive asset, a Ty Emberson, who is going to be a depth defenseman, a depth defenseman that has a couple NHL games in him. So he's either going to be a very important defenseman for their AHL team, the Bakersfield Condors. I know it's Bakersfield. I think they're called the Bakersfield. We're going to leave it at that. Or he's going to be a depth defenseman. And you know what? Judging by Edmonton's defense core, I never thought it was good in the first place, but I definitely don't think it's better now. Especially because how stacked their offensive core is. I do wonder if they are in a position to make movements. I do wonder if they'll go after more defensemen in the foreseeable future. But back to the trade, I give Edmonton an A because they give up a third round pick, but they get a third one back for the offer sheet. So they basically give up Cody Ceci for a depth defenseman that's either good for the AHL or can be a depth defenseman in the NHL team. If you don't know what a depth defenseman is, it's just a guy that, he may not be in your starting lineup every day, but you know what? If there's worst case, if you need a quick little, you got to change up the lineup bit, he's there. just a guy, just an extra guy. Just that's basically what he is. Just an extra. He's a good extra guy. And you know what? When you make deep playoff runs and you play a long 82 game season of a very physical sport like hockey, depth players like him can go a long way. So I applaud Edmonton for that. I think that's a good move. I give them an A. I give them like an A minus because since they just make a cap dump move and they get a guy that if they just get a guy that's gonna help them, not to an extreme, but it's gonna help. I'm not a big fan. I'm gonna give it a C plus for the Sharks. I don't know why they're bailing out a divisional rival, especially that made the finals. And I know it's not a big rivalry, but like I just think for a third round pick, they could have got more, especially since at first it looked like Edmonton was desperate to clear up cap room for potentially one offer sheet. So I don't know why they didn't ask for more, but I mean, I guess you get something out of it. And Cody Cece's cap it's not that bad that is worth that. It's not like he's unmovable. Listen, he's gonna play NHL minutes, and he's gonna play a lot of minutes. He's definitely gonna play his. This is probably his best chance to prove himself because the Sharks will happily take any defenseman. It's just that bailing out a team like the Oilers, especially for a GM that is not really well favorable right now because of his previous history of him being fired. It wasn't because of his abilities, but it was because since of other things that came out. I don't know why they just bailed him out. It felt like a bailout. It just feels like a really weird bailout. But I mean, I give it a C because you know what? It's not the end of the world. They get a pick out of it. They get a player that you know what for a team that's rebuilding can stop good prospects from playing, which is good because you don't like throwing your prospects to the wolves. And then who most likely, I'm almost probably calling this now, is going to be traded at the deadline because, like I said, depth defensemen are really crucial, and teams would take anyone. They'll take any depth defenseman. So retain some money, get a pick out of it, maybe even a player out of it. That can go somewhere. I just think that it wasn't. I'm not saying it's a dumb idea for the Sharks. I don't know why are they doing this. I just find it that they could have done better. That's all I'm saying. So that is what about the Oilers. Hopefully, I don't talk about them for a bit because my God, I'm not tired of talking about them because they've been interesting. I applaud them for being interesting, but I don't like how fucking I've been talking about them all the time. So to a quick pivot about people not liking about things they want to talk about. Yaroslav Askarov, if you don't know, is a very highly touted prospect, one of the best or the highly touted prospect goaltending prospect. That's the word I'm looking for. Super smart, super high IQ podcast host right here. Yep, nailed it. Podcast slash YouTube host. I don't know what the fuck I am. Dude. Yep, I'm a dude. Bang. He requested a trade from the Nashville Predators, and that's really interesting because since a lot of people, including me, like to point out, they would like to point out that it seems like it's because since that UC Saros got a pretty big extension. I'm sorry if you heard my chair. I am so goddamn sorry if you heard my chair. I'm that thing creaks louder than like fucking like in a horror movie, like the person trying to like open a door to make sure he doesn't get killed. Like that was bad. I am so sorry. Guess what? Not editing that out. Because guess who does not know how to edit? This guy. Woo! I'm so special. But back to good old Nashville. Yep, nailed it. The Predators, the good old Nashville Predators, they signed UC Saros this year to an extension worth $7.74 million, and he will be a UFA in 2033. That's a long time. And that doesn't kick in until next year. So he's there for a long, long time. And I understand his frustration. But you know what? Yaroslav Askarov wasn't really good, or he wasn't really noticeable in the American Hockey League, which is the minor league associate in the NHL. he wasn't fantastic. And I just think that, for a guy that's going to expire as an RFA and this and that, I just don't think was fantastic. I mean, he did he played 2 games this year for the Preds, and he did put up a 943 save percentage, which if you don't know, it's .943. Of course, one means you have a shutout, but that isn't 2 games. That's a very tiny window to look at. But he wasn't, I don't know, I just don't think he was very, noticeable this year. And you know what? And he's the third goalie. There's Kevin Lankinen. How about you make the backup first, man? I just think that I understand his frustration because you know what? Everyone is looking for a goalie, and especially a young, talented goaltender. But he's acting like he'll never get like an opening, like a starting job out of Nashville because of I understand, yeah, like he got hey man, the starting goaltender is gonna be there for a long time. I get that, but it's not like teams spend money on goaltending and bomb horribly. I mean, a prime example is Jack Campbell. Does pretty decent in Toronto, gets paid a lot for a mid to long term contract, and it sucked. Sucked so bad they waived him to the AHL and just let him rot, even during their playoff run, man. They didn't even consider about it. Calvin Pickard was playing second round playoff games, man, instead of him. That's how bad it is. Yuck. That is really unfortunate for Jack Campbell, especially since seems like he's a pretty chill ass dude. But I just think Askarov, you know what? I just think he's just complaining a little too much. I just think that how about you get the backup job first before we can really talk. But you know what? That's his decision, and I definitely think teams will want him because he's a pretty highly touted goaltender prospect. He's a pretty well-known name, and I think somebody would try to go after him at this rate. It's just the question is, will Nashville make that trade? I did forget to mention I had to go back to the Oilers. So the reason why I think the Oilers made this or did not tender the contracts of Brogberg and Holloway is because I truly believe it's because since they are trying to create as much money possible for Leon Draisaitl. And I know that money means fucking nothing, but hear me out. Let me get the idea. So they free up money now, and they're gonna put Evander Kane on long-term injury reserve, which if you don't know, it stands for, or which is short form, which I will be referring it in the future to LITR, which is what is mostly a lot of people go by that. And because of that, they can free up a lot of money. Because Draisaitl currently makes $8.5 million. That guy does not need to make eight. That guy deserves a lot more than that money. That guy deserves that guy deserves something. That guy deserves a big payday. He really does. Cause that's a cheap ass contract, man. That feels like minimum wage for that guy. It's not. It's not at all. It's not. It's really not. But it feels like it because how good he is. He's a good player. I'm also a big fan of Draisaitl, as you can tell, as you can or cannot tell. But I do believe they're trying to make every dollar count. They're thinking in the future. Hey, every dollar counts now. And I think with Evander Kane, who makes around $5.1 million, I'm also, and I believe what the Oilers thing is, hey, we can put this guy on the shelf for at least this year. Evander Kane has 2 years under that, so if they do keep Leon, there will have to be one more year of Evander Kane if he's not traded or bought out or whatever. But they're trying to free up as much dollars as they can, and a lot of people are asking, well, hey, now you're under the cap and this and that. I mean, for goodness sakes, you can make some movements out of it. And they were talking about more of the deadline. Like, hey, at the deadline, every dollar counts. But what I like to think is that they're freeing up all this money so that short term, if they are competitive this year, I don't want to jump the gun, but if they are a competitive team, which I think they most likely will, they can acquire short-term contracts, 1-year deals, or for 1-year rental deals for the rest of the season, and then so they can stay competitive and fill in the holes they need. Because I don't think their defense is good. I just don't think it's really as good as that offensive core. And I do think that I don't want to say that Stanley Cup Finals run was a fluke, but I definitely don't think it was. It wasn't the easy or the hardest path to make the finals, in my opinion. But I think they're going to make every dollar count with what they have for cap space to free up Draisaitl. They get these rentals, they move out other people, and then at the end of the season, they can let those guys go, plus anyone else that they have to, and then those pennies, those toonies, those nickels, dimes, quarters, whatever they got, that adds up, man. That adds up. That really does add up. And you know what? That might be the breaking force of between Draisaitl staying in Edmonton or not. So every dollar counts, and I don't mind that. I think that's pretty smart of the Oilers to think about. It's once again the money they freed up is not groundbreaking, but every dollar counts, especially since he is probably the biggest free agent if he doesn't re-sign in Edmonton. Because not gonna lie, next year's free agency class is pretty stacked. So if I'm still doing this thing, it should be really interesting to talk about. So that was I was forgetting to say when I was talking about the Oilers. But the last little bit I want to talk about is Matty Beniers. Matty Beniers was re-signed to the Seattle Kraken, and he makes 7 years for $7.14 million. And I want to quickly touch up on that because I do think he's a very good player. I do think I'm mostly happy for him. Why I'm really saying this is because since you know what, that's a home. That's a player that Seattle can call home. They haven't really had that yet in their franchise. And it's pretty exciting to see that they have a player that can be like, hey, welcome to the team. He's 21. He's their first line center. This year, he did have 15 goals, 37 points. I am putting this re-signing in the category of jumping the gun. And there's a lot of teams in the Atlantic Division that like to do that, mainly Buffalo and Ottawa. If you look at their contracts, it's like, okay, you know what? I see the potential. I just don't think it's right now. And then for those teams, specifically those two that haven't made the playoffs in quite a long time, you kind of look at it and you go, well, hey, man, those dollars can be spent for a player that can win right now instead of more than the future, because the future, you still haven't made the damn playoffs yet. A little hate watching by me, Atlantic Division rival. A little good, healthy hate watch on the Sabres and Senators. But I do think my point is very valid there that, you know what, I think a lot of these teams are kind of jumping the gun a bit too early on these young players. And so far, they don't really look the best. But time will tell if they really are worth it. Only time will tell. But I'm happy that Seattle can get a player that is long-term that they can call home. And I only wish nothing but the best for them, especially since they are such a new franchise. And as someone who's a Seahawks fan, I'm going to sneeze, by the way, so I apologize. Oh my God. Bless me. I've been blessed. As a Seahawks fan, I have a little soft spot for Seattle because you know what? That's the same city as my favorite football team. Thumbs up. The last thing is a very interesting thing. The last thing is my goodness. Is holy shit, I'm stupid. Is the Philadelphia Flyers are trying to terminate Ryan Johansen's contract. Ryan Johansen was acquired at the deadline for Sean Walker in terms of a cap dump move for the Avalanche because the cap is he makes some pretty decent money, and he was acquired for them. Now he didn't play for the rest of the year. I can't remember the full deal, but Sean Walker was going for the other bit. He was definitely a cap dump move. He was acquired for what the fuck am I doing, man? What am I saying? What am I doing? Ugh. As I was saying, Ryan Johansen is going to be terminated by the Flyers. He was acquired by Sean Walker at last year's deadline. He didn't play for the rest of the year because of even though for some reason the trade went through, even though he went to the Flyers route, he's like, oh, I have a hip issue. I can't play for the rest of the year. And then they sent him down. So it's like, what the fuck? Okay. And then now it's been radio silent. And then today they went, we're going to terminate his ass because of a breach of his contract. And it's like, what the fuck? But it kind of makes sense because since, the guy didn't play for them, didn't report their AHL team, didn't do shit. Guy said, nah, fuck that. I ain't doing that shit. I am playing for the Flyers. Because apparently he might have beef with Tortorella. I don't know. He might. He may not. I don't know. That was being reported at first. It was shot down really quickly. So, they're trying to breach his contract. He does make $8 million, but it will be split between the Flyers and the Predators. I know Nashville Predator random mention. But $4 million does go a long way, especially for the Flyers that are trying to, improve their team and trying to make a playoff run. A lot of teams right now are trying to really shoot for the stars. It's really competitive in the NHL, which is pretty awesome. Getting sidetracked. So yeah, they're trying to terminate him because of a breach of his contract. That's what they're claiming. Right after, their agent, KD Sports, which is the company that his agent represents, they put out a statement saying Ryan Johansen has a severe injury that requires intensive surgery, which has been scheduled. Since being traded to the Flyers, Ryan has worked in good faith with the club, his medical staff, and has authorized third-party positions. The Flyers' attempt to terminate Ryan's contract is disappointing. We've been in contact with the NHLPA and will defend Ryan to protect his rights. So, even though it was first being reported like, hey, this guy is not reporting to the team, he doesn't want to be there, it does seem like there's an injury, and it was reported that he did have an injury, which is why he stayed out, and which is why it went under the radar. He needs injury. Now they're trying to get rid of his contract for, they say, of a mental breach. Or was it a mental breach? What's the word? A material. Holy fuck, I'm stupid. A material breach. I'm so sorry for your ears. Fuck! I'm stupid. Yeah, of a material breach. I'm very tired. I'm very tired today. It's 11:26. I worked today. I'm so gassed. No excuses. I'm here for the long haul. I'm going to quickly finish this and then we're done. So yeah, because of a material breach, because apparently he said he had hip surgery, because since after being acquired at the deadline, the 32-year-old who did play for the Avalanche for 63 games that year told the team he had a hip injury that needs surgery, and then disappeared. They put him to the minors, and then nothing came out of it, and then didn't play for the rest of the year, and then now it popped up again. And of course, the representatives at KD Sports said, "Hey, that's in bad faith." So that's very interesting to talk about. Who's in the right, who's in the wrong, and what side which side would take place. The NHLPA is obviously going to protect their players. Of course, that's their job. They are the Players Association. They must protect them. But I really wonder what the NHL does, because since it depends on what. More information will come out soon. I might not talk about this. I might not. But it definitely is interesting to see a player like him. Ryan Johansen was quite of a big face for a bit in Nashville. It's quite interesting to see that, here he is trying to be, his contract's being terminated, because you don't really see that too often in the NHL. That's not a common thing. And especially with injuries, I think this could get ugly, and we'll see how things go. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. I'm gonna wrap it up here. I thank you for listening. I don't care if there's one of you, two of you, three of you, four of you. I appreciate, or even more, I appreciate your time listening to me, and I will get better. I think this one's a pretty sloppy one, but you know what? This would take 4, so you know what? All the best. See ya.